Hi everyone. This is the third lecture for your chapter Neural Control and Coordination. In the last class, we saw the different parts of the brain. There are three main parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. We started with the forebrain and said that it is made up of three main parts. The first one is cerebral hemispheres or cerebrum. The second part is olfactory lobes, which are present on the ventral side of the brain. This here is the ventral side. The upper side is known as dorsal, right? So this is dorsal, this is ventral. So if you look at the brain from the bottom, you will see the olfactory lobes here. So you have olfactory lobes, then you have cerebrum, and the third part is diencephalon. Cerebrum is the largest part of your brain, okay? And we saw that how different sulcus or sulci, plural, they divide your forebrain into four main lobes. These four lobes are your frontal lobe, then you have parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and your temporal lobe. Now, just some tricks or some funny things which will help you remember, okay, what are their functions. So, let us say you're in an exam or in a test and you're not able to remember something. What do? You normally tap on your forehead or you bang your head, hand with your head or something. ऐसे सिर पे थोड़ा मुट्ठी बना के मारते हो ना. So you have to now remember कि इससे क्या होगा. Just to remember the functional area, okay? So what happens is in your frontal lobe, it is responsible for functions like problem solving, okay, concentration, thinking, short term memories. तो ये सब जो है intelligence जो है, that is all covered by your frontal lobe, which is why you will be now able to remember कि ऐसे सिर को पटकने से जो तुमको कुछ याद आ जाएगा या तुम एक्टिंग करते हो कि कुछ याद आ जाए. So that is because you are trying to like tell your frontal brain कि चलो चलो problem solve करो. Fine. Now occipital I had told you last class that you might have seen in some movies or in some cartoons कि पीछे से कोई आके कोई बेसबॉल बैट है या ऐसा कुछ मारेगा तो फिर द पर्सन ओके और द कार्टून उनकी आंखों के आगे तारे दिखने लगते हैं, राइट? सो फ्रॉम दिस व्हाट विल यू अंडरस्टैंड और व्हाट विल यू रिमेंबर? पीछे की तरफ हियर दिस येलो रीजन विच इज नोन एज ऑसिपिटल लोब इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर विजन. ओके, तुम्हारी आंखें सिर्फ देखती है, ओके, दे आर जस्ट लाइक लेंसेज, तुम्हारे चश्मे की तरह. बट योर ब्रेन इज द एक्चुअल पोर्शन विच सीज. ओके, वो अंडरस्टैंड करता है कि वॉट एवर यू आर सीइंग इट मेक्स सेंस ऑफ वॉट यू आर सीइंग. सो नाउ यू विल बी एबल टू रिमेंबर दिस एज वेल कि पीछे की तरफ क्या आता है. यू हैव ऑसिपिटल लोब whose function is vision. Now the third lobe, let us discuss, which is this temporal lobe, okay, which is shown here in green. टेम्पोरल लोब कहीं मूवीज में देखा होगा कि अगर कोई विलन है या हीरो है या फिर आपके पेरेंट्स या कोई भी ऐसे देखा होगा कि इफ दे स्लैप यू वेरी हार्ड, ऐसे कान पे खींच के देंगे, देन व्हाट हैपेंस? इन इन वर्नाकुलर इसे कान में तमरा बोलवा मंडे, राइट? और बोलवा लागे. सो दिस हैपेंस बिकॉज कैन यू सी दिस हियर इज योर ईयर, और ईयर के एग्जैक्टली ऊपर आता है योर temporal lobe, and this temporal lobe has the function of hearing. वो सुनने का काम करता है, language, speaking, then a little bit of memory also. Okay, so this region here is responsible for listening and talking skills. We had discussed कि ऐसे वर्निकेज एरिया होता है जहाँ पे language comprehension, that is, if I'm talking to you in English, then that English will go here and you are able to understand that okay, madam is talking in English. You have another region called Broca's area, which is also near temporal lobe but on the inner side. Broca's area क्या करता है? तो it controls your speech, कि तुम कौन सी लैंग्वेज में बोलोगे, कैसे बोलोगे. Okay, all of that will be handled by your Broca's area. अभी साइंटिस्ट को पता कैसे चलता है कि which lobe is doing which function? So there can be many ways. Just as an example, मैं बताती हूँ that Broca's area, no? So people used to have lisp. Lisp मतलब अचकाई न बोलूं, right? अथवा तोतलू बोलूं, right? So this kind of people when they died, okay, so the scientists they removed the brain and they did the dissection. When they did dissection, they found that normally these people had some lesion matlab kharot, okay, some scratches or some problem in this Broca's area which was responsible for speech. इसलिए वो ठीक से बोल नहीं सकते थे, fine. Then they took rats, okay, we have done a lot of study on rats. You take rats, you insert electrodes. इलेक्ट्रोड तुम लोगों ने देखा होगा वो कार की बैटरी में कैसे लगाते हैं, सेम वे, ओके. तो इलेक्ट्रोड अलग अलग जगह पे जैसे ही लगाते जाओगे, एज यू कीप ऑन प्लेसिंग दिस इलेक्ट्रोड्स, that area will be electrically what you can say excited, okay. तो उस हिसाब से पता चलता है कि ये एरिया क्या काम करता है, fine. For example, let us say तुमने occipital lobe में electrode घुसा के and then you are giving them electrical signals, then the person will start seeing colors, okay. Then same thing if you do here on the temporal lobe, the person will start hearing things, right? क्यों? क्योंकि उनके न्यूरॉन्स जो है वो एरिया के न्यूरॉन्स दे स्टार्ट फायरिंग, ओके. फायरिंग मतलब सिग्नल बनाने लगते हैं because of these electrodes. So this is how the doctors and the scientists they find out that which region of your brain is doing what function. Clear? Of course, we have now better imaging techniques. Imaging techniques मतलब x-ray ऐसा नाम सुना होगा, PET scan, x-ray, right? So mostly PET scan जो है, with help of that you can come to know that which area of your brain is active in which activity. If you are swimming, then which area is active? If you are dancing, which area is active? All of this can be studied very well. Chalo. Moving ahead, now we had started with olfactory lobe. We have completed olfactory lobe. We started with cerebrum and I have covered almost everything. The only part remaining, let us discuss. So in your forebrain, they're talking about cerebrum or cerebral hemispheres. And in cerebrum, there is something known as lateral ventricles. Wherever you hear the word lateral, or it means side, okay, on your left and on your right. So on your sides or on your laterals, right? So lateral ventricle. In heart also, in circulatory system, you must have heard of ventricles, right? You have two auricles, right, and two ventricles in heart. What does ventricle mean? It just means a chamber, fine. Chamber, khali jaga, fine. So now focus here again. This here is your cerebral hemisphere, and in your cerebral hemisphere, on both the sides, there are these hand shaped. Can you see? This is almost like a hand picking up something, right? So these hand shaped what you can say spaces, okay, which are called lateral ventricles. अगर सुना होगा तो कभी फ्रेंड्स ऐसे डांट देते ना कि तेरा ऊपला जो ऊपर का जो माला है वो खाली है, ऐसे ऊपर नो मारता रहो खाली है. So from that now you will be able to remember this, that in your brain there are literally cavities, okay. These are empty spaces. I mean they are filled with fluid, but they are spaces basically, okay. So in your cerebrum there are two such lateral ventricles or spaces, okay. This is on one side you can see, and same thing will be present on the other side as well. These are called lateral ventricles. Let us see how they look like if you cut the brain like this, okay. Let me show you. If you cut the brain like this and you look at it from the back, then how would it look like? It will look something like this. Remember, this outermost is your cerebral cortex, and this is your white matter in your cerebrum. This is the corpus callosum, which are the fibers connecting two cerebral hemispheres. This is the main cerebral fissure, which divides the two cerebrum. Okay, this much should be clear to you by now. Very good. So now what we are discussing here, the lateral ventricles, they look like this from the back. Okay, if you look at it from the back, you can see they are in a pair. You have one on the left, one on the right, and this portion here, just focus on the leftmost diagram. You see this portion here, okay, that is shown here like this. Are you able to understand कैसे जा रहा है? Okay, let me just clear once again and show it to you how it would look like. So this is your basic structure of ventricle. Okay, it looks like a hand. तो अगर इसको ऐसे कट करोगे and you look at it from the back, तुमको कैसे दिखेगा? एक ऊपर ये दिखेगा, ये वाला जो portion है which will be seen like this, and जो नीचे वाला portion है, इधर वाला portion, that will also be seen like this, right? So when you look at the brain from the back, okay, with a cross section, it should look like this. These are both parts of the lateral ventricle itself. Now this is actual diagram of the same, and here you can see these are the lateral ventricles and these are the bottom parts, okay, the tips of the lateral ventricle जो इधर है, ये वाला part. Fine. So in your cerebral hemisphere you have empty spaces known as lateral ventricle. These lateral ventricle, they open into third ventricle which you see here. Okay, ये दोनों connected है, नीचे खुलते हैं. This common ventricle is known as third ventricle, and the space or the hole through which this lateral ventricle and the third ventricle are fused, okay, that is known as foramen of Monro. That hole or that space through which lateral ventricles are connected to the third ventricle is known as foramen of Monro. Chalo. Enough about that. I think that this much is enough for the cerebrum. Okay. What you have to remember is the first ventricle is on the right. Okay. So right ventricle is called first ventricle. Left ventricle is called second ventricle. And together they are both known as lateral ventricles. Clear? Fine. Chalo. Moving ahead. We are now done with the cerebrum. We are moving on to the diencephalon, which is the second part of your forebrain. Third part, sorry. Olfactory, cerebrum and diencephalon. Diencephalon forms the walls of the third ventricle. Remember, here we saw this third ventricle. So the walls of these third ventricles are actually made by your diencephalon. Fine. And what is this diencephalon? It is made up of epithalamus. Whenever you hear epi means upon, upar. So epithalamus, which is shown here. Okay. Can you see this red colored portion, right? And this colored portion. Fine. So this here whole thing is your epithalamus. It is the roof of diencephalon. This egg-shaped structure, okay, that is basically your thalamus or diencephalon. This whole colored portion, purple and pink colored portion is your diencephalon. The roof, okay, छत जो होती है, roof of diencephalon is known as epithalamus. It is made up of pia mater, which is a non-nervous tissue. Okay, this is your homework again. Find out what pia mater is made up of. We have discussed this in last class. It contains choroid plexus. Now let me show you this choroid plexus. Can you see this red part? Okay, this red part is called choroid plexus. It is basically made up of ependymal cells. Now try and recall. Ependymal cells are a type of neuroglial cells which secrete the cerebrospinal fluid. So this choroid plexus will be secreting cerebrospinal fluid, and that cerebrospinal fluid is present inside your ventricles, right? So this in this cross section you can see this here is the corpus callosum, right? This here is your corpus callosum. Beneath the corpus callosum are your lateral ventricles, okay, one each on both sides of the cerebrum. This is here the foramen of Monro through which these lateral ventricles are connected to the third ventricle. This here is the third ventricle. Fine. Okay. Posterior part has attachment of pineal gland. So here you can see on the posterior side there is presence of pineal gland. Okay, this light pink colored structure or purple colored structure here is the pineal gland. Pineal gland is the place where melatonin is secreted. Melatonin is an hormone which controls your 24-hour day and night cycle. Okay, so what is called circadian rhythm, when you should wake up, when you should sleep, when you should eat, all of that is maintained by your melatonin secreted in the pineal gland. Fine. So this was all about epithalamus, which is this red portion and this light pink portion. Then comes thalamus. Thalamus here is this egg-like structure. Okay, can you see this egg-shaped structure? Okay, it almost looks like an oval. So this egg-like structure, this oval here, is known as your thalamus. And thalamus is a mass of gray matter. You can see it here as well. Okay, this here is your thalamus. So thalamus is made up of gray matter. Okay, which means it has a lot of nuclei. Fine. And it relays impulses to the cerebrum. So whatever impulses it is getting, okay, whatever signals it will get, these signals will be relayed. Relayed matlab they will be forwarded to the cerebrum. So whatever signals it gets, it is forwarded to cerebrum. That is its function. And finally, the base of diencephalon. So we saw epithalamus, we saw thalamus. Now we will see hypothalamus, which means the base of diencephalon, which is shown here in dark purple color. Okay, this here, the whole part is your hypothalamus. Pituitary gland, which is shown here, these, okay, they are attached to the hypothalamus via this structure, which is known as infundibulum. Okay, so this here is your whole hypothalamus. At the base of hypothalamus, you have attachment of pituitary gland through a structure known as infundibulum. It is a bridge. What is the function of hypothalamus? Its function is integration of signals. All the different signals you're getting from your sight, from your smell, these signals will be integrated in your hypothalamus. It maintains homeostasis. Homeostasis is normal levels, okay, of everything in the blood or in your body. What does this normal levels mean? It means your temperature. So who is responsible for controlling your temperature? It is hypothalamus. If you are normal, then your blood temperature or your body temperature will be 37 degrees. If you have fever, your body temperature will be higher. Who maintains all of this? Hypothalamus. Okay, so it is the one which maintains homeostasis. Then appetite. Appetite is hunger. You are hungry or you are now full. Full meaning पेट भर गया पूरा. Then that is known as satiety, satisfaction. So appetite मतलब hunger, भूख लगना और भूख मिट जाना. All of these are also controlled by your hypothalamus. Then thirst. Okay, पानी की प्यास लगना. So thirst, sweating, this is also controlled by hypothalamus. Your blood pressure is controlled by hypothalamus. Clear? So hypothalamus, as you can see, it has very many important functions. And we will see hypothalamus even in the endocrine system because it can also secrete many hormones. Fine. So this small area, this small space here itself is able to secrete a lot of things. It is able to do a lot of things. Okay, it is able to control a lot of things in your body. तो इतनी छोटी जगह है, you should not underestimate it. Okay, this small area here is your hypothalamus. This is the real brain, this is the diagram. Okay, so in the real brain also you can see this small region is your hypothalamus. It also has this structure, okay, this swollen region which is seen here. It is known as mammillary bodies. Fine. So this is the structure of your diencephalon. Now, a lot of times you might hear this term called limbic system. Okay, when you are watching some documentary or you are reading about the brain, then limbic system is mentioned a lot of times. Remember, it is not something new system. Okay, कोई अलग system नहीं है. This limbic system is just a group of some parts of your brain. Okay, so it consists of parts like amygdala. These purple knob-like structures are called amygdala. Clear? So it has amygdala. Then it has hippocampus. Hippocampus is this part, this blue colored part that you see. ओके, हैव यू सीन कभी वो ब्लूटूथ कान पे लगाते हैं फॉर स्पीकिंग, तो उसका इस तरीके का कुछ स्ट्रक्चर होता है, तो हिपोकैम्पस लुक्स ऑलमोस्ट लाइक दैट. Fine. Then you have hypothalamus. This here is thalamus, and then you have this green colored hypothalamus. All of these are part of your limbic system. Okay. Now let us understand what basically this limbic system does. It is involved in regulation of sexual behavior, especially in animals when you see. Okay, so the sexual behavior in animals as well as in humans is controlled by your limbic system. Then you have emotions. Emotions I will explain. Let us say fear. So they did this experiment. Normally monkeys are very afraid of snakes. Okay, they fear snakes. So what did the scientists do? They removed amygdala from the brain. And I hope, as you can see from this diagram itself, all of these are present in pairs. Okay, your thalamus, your hypothalamus, your amygdala, all of it will be in pairs, one on each side of cerebrum. Fine, right. So in your monkeys, okay, these scientists, they took monkeys, they removed the amygdala, and then they introduced snake. Now amygdala is the place where you fear. Okay, you sense fear, that you should be afraid of something. So that fear, love, hate, a lot of it is controlled by your amygdala. And so what happened was the monkeys were no longer fearful of these snakes. Fine. Then this limbic system, okay, some parts of it are also involved in aggression. So if you, let us say you have caught a tiger, and if you bring the tiger back home, it is going to fight, of course. Okay, try and get out of the jail. So what can you do? Previously, a lot of years back, people used to remove this amygdala and the limbic system. What happens is the animal calms down and loses that aggression. Okay, loses a lot of such behavioral traits. So from this all studies and experiments, you can come to know that limbic system is involved in behavior. Okay, and whether you should be afraid of them or whether you should fight it, or all the different emotions like hate, anger, they are controlled by your limbic system. It is also connected to olfaction. Olfaction is sense of smell. So this white colored lobes that you see are your olfactory lobes, and they are also connected to your limbic system. See, because in animals also you must have seen that if a cat smells a dog, okay, then it gets afraid. Okay, it is fearful of that dog just by the smell. So same way, even for us, let us say you smell smoke, then you get afraid, right? Because there must be fire somewhere. So olfaction is also very much involved with your limbic system. Then this is the part where your short-term memory is transferred to long-term memory. So we have studied in frontal lobe of forebrain, okay, or your cerebrum. It is involved in memory, but this memory is more like, let us say, short-term memory, okay, very short-term memory. um, let's say your mother, okay, she told you to go and bring palak home. So that is short term. You do not have to remember that for years. So you remember that, okay, I have to go and pick up palak. You go to the store, you go to the shop, you pick up palak, and you come back. Now you no longer have to remember that. Then let us say somebody is telling you his or her phone number. So you are writing down the phone number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are short term memory. That for some time till you write it down, you have to remember this number. Okay. So all of that is managed by your frontal lobe. But the short term memory, which should go for long term, you have to remember it for long time. That takes place in your limbic system. Okay. So if you remember कि चिंटू ने मेरा second standard में eraser चुराया था, then remember that this memory has been stored for long term by your limbic system. Then autonomic responses. Autonomic responses are the responses where you are not consciously doing anything. Okay, this could be like hearing, watching TV. So the sight and vision and all, you, it is not under your control. Then also movement of your intestines, and movement of your smooth muscles of your heart. All of this can be controlled by these autonomic responses. Okay, so here actually what autonomic responses are, mostly they are related to sight and hearing. Okay, so if let us say if you hear a tiger roar, then then you get afraid, right? So that relation is here. Then if you see a lion and you get afraid, so those autonomic responses are maintained by your hypothalamus. By your limbic system. Right, so these are the parts of your human brain. We started with the forebrain. Now we shall move to the midbrain. Midbrain here is shown in this green color. Okay, not the whole thing, but this part here. Okay, let me just show it to you once. So this part here is your midbrain. It is a very small part and mostly covered by your cerebral hemisphere. So you cannot see or look at midbrain unless you cut the brain like this. Okay, chalo. So midbrain is known as mesencephalon. The location is between diencephalon and pons. So here, this is your thalamus, egg-shaped. And beneath this thalamus, egg-shaped thalamus, you have this midbrain. Remember, thalamus is also part of your diencephalon. So here you have thalamus, then you'll have hypothalamus, and then you have this midbrain. A cerebral aqueduct, or which is also known as aqueduct of Sylvius, passes through the midbrain. So if just look at this cross section at the bottommost diagram. Okay, you can see this blue colored part. Where is it coming from? It is coming from the third ventricle. Okay, here are your lateral ventricles, then you have your third ventricle, and third ventricle opens through this canal, and this canal is known as aqueduct. Okay, cerebral aqueduct or aqueduct of Sylvius. I don't know if you have ever seen in Roman architecture, they have aqueducts, okay, or plumbing system and water transport system. So those were actually known as aqueduct, and because this looks like a canal, same type, okay, so it is also named as aqueduct. Okay, this canal is doing what? It is bringing all that cerebrospinal fluid and moving down. Clear? So it is also filled with cerebrospinal fluid. The posterior part, now this here is the cerebral aqueduct. On the posterior side, okay, पीछे की तरफ, you can see these structures. And if you look at it from the back, this is the side view. You look at it from the back, then they look like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Clear? So these contain 4 spherical structures. Here 1, 2, which are shown in green, and 3 and 4. Clear? So these 4 together are known as corpora quadrigemina. Corpora just means body, okay, body, and quadri means 4. So there are 4 such spherical bodies. Okay, hence the name is corpora quadrigemina. See, this is the side view. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the back view where you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the side view where you can see 1 above and 1 below. Each of these spherical structure can be called colliculus. Okay, so if you want to talk about these colliculus, then you have 2 superior colliculi, plural. Superior matlab upar. So 2 superior colliculi and 2 inferior colliculi. Clear? Okay, so together all 4 of them are called corpora quadrigemina. The function is reception and integration of audiovisual and tactile inputs. Let us understand each word one by one. Reception means to receive. Okay, you are receiving the signals. So the receiving of signals. Then integration, you are combining all of these signals. Which signals? So they could be audio. Audio means sound, acoustic. Then visual, okay, whatever you are seeing, sight. And tactile. Tactile is touch. So let us say your sound, you are hearing a lion roar. Okay, so that is your audio input. But your visual input is that you are looking at a documentary on Discovery. Okay, so this lion is roaring, correct? But it is happening on your TV. Fine. So this is your visual input. And tactile, you're just sitting on your sofa and looking at the TV. Fine. So all of these three will be coming to your midbrain, and this midbrain will analyze that, oh, you are just watching TV. Okay, there is no threat, and there is no real lion present in front of you. So these integrations are important. Let us say that there was no integration. Then what will happen? If you hear a lion roar, you would get afraid. If you just see a lion, you would get afraid, right? But this is not happening because there is integration. Integration is you are combining all of these inputs and then deciding that, oh, this is dangerous, this is not dangerous. Okay, so all of this is taken care of by your midbrain. Another thing, let us say if I clap, okay, suddenly on your left hand side, then what will happen, or near your left ear, sorry. So what will happen? You will just directly look on your left side that what happened, right? Then somebody on your right, let us say, burst a firecracker. Then your function is, or what will your body do? Your body will directly look on your right, that, oh, what happened, right? If somebody screams, let us say from your left, koi chilla raha hai, then your body's reaction is to look on that side, right? So this also takes place because of these superior colliculi. Okay, jo superior colliculi hai wo. Then inferior colliculi, what do they do? So let us say suddenly you were just watching TV, and your mother walks from your left hand side. Then you look at your mother, right? So this, okay, by vision, when from which side you are seeing something, and you are acting according to that, this is also maintained by your, or the function is done by your midbrain. The midbrain is a very small part. As you can see, it is just this much small part of your brain. Now moving on to the hindbrain, which is also known as rhombocephalon. Okay, hindbrain is divided into, again, three parts. So we shall start with the first one, which is called pons. So if you can see, here is your cerebral hemispheres. This is your corpus callosum. By the way, yeah, corpus callosum is a specialty or a feature of mammals only. Okay, only in mammals you see this corpus callosum, and in mammals also, the female, okay, they have higher developed corpus callosum, so they are very good at multitasking. Fine. So corpus callosum, lateral ventricle, then you have, this is your thalamus, this is your hypothalamus, and from your hypothalamus, here you have the brain, where there will be the cerebral aqueduct and the superior and inferior colliculi. Beneath the midbrain, you have this swollen region, okay, which is known as pons. So it is below the midbrain, okay, so this here is midbrain, then this is your pons, and above the medulla oblongata, okay, above medulla oblongata, beneath midbrain. It connects the forebrain to the hindbrain. What is its function? It is connecting your forebrain to the hindbrain. Its main function is it regulates breathing. So again, coming back to some movies or whatever you must have seen, have you seen that in some movies, some action movie, the hero, okay, or the fighter, he or she, they turn the person's head, okay, they turn it so hard that the person just falls right down, right? So why does that happen? Or if they hit the person on the back, they just fall, okay, or some even die. So why is that happening? Because at that place you have pons, and if your pons is damaged, okay, by some accident or by in these action movies, then it controls your breathing, and if this is damaged, then it will not signal your lungs to breathe, and so if you stop breathing, your body will not get oxygen and the person will die, right? So here pons, it is very very important because it controls the function of breathing. When you are not aware that you are breathing, okay, that normal functions are carried out by pons, right? Then you have the next part of hindbrain, which is cerebellum. Here, okay, in vernacular you call it nanumagaj. So this nanumagaj or cerebellum looks like this. Okay, this is the diagram, and this is the real small your cerebellum. Okay, here is your pons. Fine. So cerebellum, if you look at it, it looks like a tree. Can you see? It looks like a tree, and it has very many such folds. right? These folds increase the surface area for the neurons. It is made up of three lobes. So in total, if you look at it from the back, these are all the side views. If you look from the back, you can see that you have a left lobe, a right lobe, and one lobe connecting the two lobes, which is called a vermis. Okay, so it is made up of three lobes. You have left lobe, right lobe, and vermis. The two lateral lobes are spherical, so you can see they are almost spherical. Fine, and they are called cerebellar hemispheres. Okay, cerebellum. So cerebellar hemispheres. So here is the cerebellar hemisphere. The third lobe is called vermis, which is shown here. Okay, the small part joining the two is called vermis. Cerebellum has a very convoluted surface. Convoluted matlab it has a lot of folds, as you can see here. Okay, and this increases the surface area. The outer part is gray matter, just like your cerebrum. Okay, you have outer part which is gray, inner part is white matter. What is the function of cerebellum? It integrates the information received by your semicircular canals in ear. So when we study ear, or you must have already studied, so you know that there are three semicircular canals. Okay, and these semicircular canals are filled with fluid, and their function is to tell you, okay, or tell your brain or signal your brain about the posture. Okay, so your posture, your balance, all of this is maintained by your semicircular canals. Okay, they will receive these signals, and these signals will be then reaching your cerebellum. So it receives the impulses from voluntary muscles also and joints. So let us say your hands and legs. Okay, and hence it is important for coordination of voluntary muscles. So all the muscles which are under your control are again coordinated. Okay, just coordination. Let us see you are running, then your left foot first, then right foot. All of these coordination is maintained by cerebellum. Okay, body balance also. So I'll give you an example how the function of cerebellum was discovered. In movies, again, you must have seen people who drink too much alcohol. They move around a little wobbly, right? जो ज्यादा दारू पी जाते हैं वो इधर उधर ऐसे हिलते डुलते चलते हैं, right? Why is that? Because that alcohol, no, it affects your cerebellum. And if your cerebellum is affected, वो अपना काम नहीं कर सकता. उसका काम क्या है? It is to coordinate your muscles. तो अब तुम्हारे मसल और जॉइंट्स जो है दे आर नॉट कोऑर्डिनेटेड, तो सारे कोई भी हाथ है कोई भी पैर है अपने हिसाब से हिल रहा है. ओके, एंड दैट इज व्हाई यू आर वॉबली. देयर इज नो बॉडी बैलेंस. तो ये बैलेंस जो है, दिस कोऑर्डिनेशन, इट इज ऑल integrated, okay, and maintained by your cerebellum, which is why it is very important part of your brain. Then comes the third part of your hind brain, which is called medulla oblongata. So we have seen the midbrain, beneath which is pons. Then you have medulla oblongata. This medulla oblongata is posterior. Posterior matlab पीछे की तरफ. Cylindrical part. You can see it is almost like a cylinder. Here it is better visible, okay, in a real life brain diagram. So here is your medulla oblongata. Okay. And it is a cylindrical part of your hind brain. It surrounds the fourth ventricle. And this is something important. हमने देखा lateral ventricles, then we saw the third ventricle, we saw the cerebellar aqueduct, okay, cerebral aqueduct, and finally you have the fourth ventricle shown here. Can you see this space which looks like a triangle? The triangle space जो है, it is included in your medulla oblongata. Okay, it is again filled with cerebrospinal fluid. So it surrounds the fourth ventricle. The three of these, okay, midbrain, pons, and medulla. Midbrain, pons, and medulla, they are together called brain stem. क्यों brain stem? तो think of it like a cauliflower. Okay, फूल गोभी की तरह देखो. फूल गोभी में क्या होता है? You have this main stem, एक stem रहेगा, right? और वो stem के ऊपर सारे फूल present होते हैं, right? All the flowers, all the inflorescences present on this on the stem. Same way, जब तुम ऐसे कट करके देखते हो ब्रेन को तो क्या दिखता है? दिस लुक्स लाइक अ स्टेम, और ये स्टेम के ऊपर पूरा सेरेब्रम है और फोर ब्रेन, मिड ब्रेन जो भी है वो सब इसके ऊपर ही टिका हुआ है। ओके, सो दिस पार्ट हियर इज कॉल्ड योर ब्रेन स्टेम। क्लियर? अभी कुछ समझ में आ रहा है? दिस पार्ट हियर इज द ब्रेन स्टेम, जिसके ऊपर पूरा ब्रेन जो है वो टिका हुआ है, चिपका हुआ है। ओके, सो दिस ब्रेन स्टेम it is made up of your midbrain, is made up of pons and medulla, all these three things. The function is to control involuntary activities of the body. Again, जैसे मैंने बताया था कि जो मूवीज में किसी की गर्दन ऐसे मरोड़ देते हैं या somebody hits you at the back right here, right, ऊपर नहीं, on your, not on your skull, खोपड़ी पे नहीं, ऐसे गले पे जो मारते हैं थोड़ा, right? So what happens there is you have these involuntary centers, मतलब you have pons जो breathing maintain करता है, then you have medulla oblongata which controls all the involuntary other activities of your brain, of your body. Okay, like your heart rate and all. So if your medulla oblongata is again damaged, then it will not be able to function. इसलिए कभी वो सुना होगा कि आफ्टर द एक्सीडेंट द पर्सन इज ब्रेन डेड, उसके ऑर्गन्स सब फंक्शन कर रहे हैं, उसको वेंटिलेटर पे रखा है, बट द पर्सन इज अनेबल टू ब्रीथ ऑन इट्स ओन. व्हाई इज दैट? बिकॉज उसका पॉन्स जो है दैट इज डैमेज्ड. बिकॉज द पॉन्स इज डैमेज्ड, वो खुद से ब्रीदिंग नहीं कर पा रहा है, and so that signal is only not going. The lungs are fine, but the pons is damaged. Fine. So this is why the brain stem is very, very important for your body. Right, so cardiovascular reflex, that is beating of your heart, then respiration, metabolism, gastric secretion, कभी तुम्हारे पेट में से HCl secrete होना चाहिए, कभी pepsinogen secrete होना चाहिए. All of this can also be controlled by your medulla oblongata. So this is its function, okay? All of these involuntary activities, तुम अपने हिसाब से नहीं decide कर पाते, इस प्रकार की activities जो है, that is all controlled by your medulla oblongata. It is also concerned with reflex actions. Some involuntary actions या reflex होता है, जैसे sneezing. Okay, so you sneeze when something irritates your nasal cavity. So the sneezing, then salivation, जैसे ही तुमको कोई पिज्जा दिखाता है and you start salivating, मुंह में पानी आ जाना. So this is because of medulla oblongata. And coughing, तुमको ऐसे गले में खिचखिच होती है, then you start coughing, right? तो खांसी शुरू हो जाना, that is also because of medulla oblongata. Swallowing, vomiting, yawning, तो ये सारे reflexes है which are not in your control. Okay, so all of these involuntary activities are controlled by your medulla oblongata. This is why, again, I'm repeating, your brain stem is very, very important for your body. People who have damaged brainstem may not be able to swallow, उनके गले से निवाला उतरता ही नहीं है, तो this can also be the reason. Okay, damage to your medulla oblongata. So here we end today's lecture. We are done with your brain. We have studied all the parts of your brain. Again, I'm just repeating कि तुम्हारी textbook में दिया गया है उतना should be enough. But some of these are interesting as well as तुम जो भी reference books refer करते हो या जिसमें भी question solve करते हो, तो if any of these questions get asked, then you should know. Fine. So we end with the brain. We have studied the whole structures of the brain, functions of the brain. Now we will move ahead with spinal cord and peripheral nervous system in the next class. So see you next time.